So there's a quote that I say, and it goes, "If your absence isn't enough to motivate him, your presence never will." So essentially, if losing you, if you walking away from him is not enough to motivate him to do better, to do right by you, then you staying with him is not going to make anything better, right? It's like this other quote that says, you can't make somebody love you by giving them more of what they already don't appreciate. And I could run off a whole bunch of other quotes that go with this, but what I'm getting at here is a lot of you are getting advice from different people, family, whatever, about things like ignoring a man, letting him go, making him chase you, all these different things because you're trying to elicit a response or you're trying to see how much he cares, things of that nature. And I want to bring more clarity to you on how your absence affects him, how it can play with his emotions, what may happen after that that you need to be aware of, because sometimes a woman does get a response, but it's not really showing her what she needs to see. Okay. And many women, it may be you, maybe someone you know, have dealt with a man or held on to him or dealt with him longer than they should have, right? And allow that situation to linger to the point of just draining you and leaving you in a worse situation. And we don't want that. Okay. So let's break this stuff down. This idea of how your absence plays with this man's emotions. So, one of the things is that you'll hear people say, some men have to lose you before they realize what they had. So, I didn't say it the exact right way, but you get where I'm going with this. The idea that some people, when they initially get to experience you, they don't fully grasp how great you are. They don't fully grasp what they have in front of them. All right. And due to that, they may take advantage. They may, or better, a more accurate thing to say is they may take it for granted. All right. They're not showing up the way that they need to. They're overlooking certain things. And they may fall into this idea also of thinking you're not going to go anywhere anyway. So they have nothing to worry about. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Have I seen situations where after a man lost a woman, he finally woke up from whatever it was that was blinding him to see and understand the value of that woman and what he had? That can happen. All right. Like it can happen in a genuine way. And I say that to not rule it out, but I'm going to tell you what I believe happens more often than the genuine realization. It is simply the regret because that man has not found something better, or it's the guilt of losing you. All right. So I'll give you an example where I've seen situations where a man could be in a relationship. Let's say it's been years, right? And let's say the woman wants to get married. He's still not ready. You know, maybe they're trying counseling, they're trying different things. He's trying to buy himself time, whatever the case may be. Now, during this process, he's complaining about the relationship. He's expressing a lot of doubt. He's even considering entertaining other people. And so everything that I can see is pointing to he's just not really into this woman, right? Or they're just not the right fit for each other. But then let's say something happens and now she breaks up with him. She lets him go. And now he's coming to me like, oh my gosh, like I really love her. I want to be with her. Like now he's convincing himself that this is the woman for him. And I'm like, wait a minute. You were just dragging your feet, complaining, considering breaking up yourself, but now that you got broken up with, now you want to believe this is the woman for you. And so a lot of people, when they lose you, they may have a bad reaction to it. For some people, it is immediate. For others, it may be somewhere down the line. Something basically kicks them in like, wait a minute, I cannot afford to let this go. But again, the issue is it's not really born out of genuine love, but more so, again, regret, second guessing, um, now having to deal with the unknown, all these different things that can freak somebody out. So I say all that to say, when you walk away from a man, when you ignore him or whatever the case may be, whatever approach you're taking, please understand that if he comes running back and he even says something like he didn't realize what he had until it was gone, you got to go deeper than that to discover, is this really a genuine reaction or just a reaction to an unhealthy attachment? Okay? Because bottom line is, when you're dealing with someone long enough, whether that be in the dating phase or in an official relationship, okay, or for some even marriage, it is natural to become very attached to that individual. And so when you no longer have that person, when they no longer have you, that your absence alone can throw things off of them, can make them feel some kind of way. And the reality with human beings is that when we start being in our emotions and now we're thinking and deeply about this individual, that whole process can make us believe we're in love. So that man, it's not that he may come back to you or realize what he had until it was gone. It's not that he's saying it to reel you back in. It's not that he's knowingly lying to you. A lot of these men, like in the story I gave, have convinced themselves, they believe at this point, no, I actually am in love. Even though it's not really love, that's what they believe it is. All right. So they're going to express that, and they're going to do a lot of things sometimes to want to prove to you that, you can take them back, so to speak, but you got to really dig deeper to figure out, is moving forward with them really the right move? All right. So another aspect of this whole how your absence affects a man emotionally is, you have to understand that some men are just very territorial. So what am I talking about here? I've seen women dating a man, and let's not even say they're in a relationship. Let's say he has not even made it official with this woman. They're just dating. And she wants something official. He hasn't given her that. And so in trying to, again, get him to react and get him to step up, she starts to ignore him or starts to purposely date other men, but making sure he finds out about it, right? To make him jealous and things of that nature. And that same man who hasn't been committing to that woman it does show jealousy. It is like, no, I don't want you talking to nobody else. Is giving her a response that makes her feel like, oh my gosh, he does care, right? Oh my gosh, he does have feelings for me. And we got to be very careful when we say someone has feelings for someone, because the being jealous is a feeling, right? So they have a feeling for you, so to speak. But it's not genuine. It's not coming from a place of love. And so again, a lot of times that reaction in a man is because many are territorial. Even if they are not trying to be with you or be serious about you, they may not want anyone else to have access to you. So they will react in ways and behave in ways that, if you're just evaluating it from the surface, it can fool you into thinking something's really there. But it's not. And what you have to make sure is you're not overlooking the real issue at hand. Because in these situations where, again, I have so many real stories I could share with you where I've seen this happen. The man gets territorial, he gets jealous, the woman feels special, all right? She starts dealing with him again. But she completely overlooked the fact that he still ain't make you his girlfriend. He still ain't make it official with you. So the root issue that led to you even trying to make him jealous has not been solved. And that same woman then finds herself dragging on for the next few months, and then it might be doing a different tactic, and it's just this never-ending cycle. So you got to be very, very careful with that. And also understand that this is especially true when you're being intimate with a man. All right. Again, there are men. I have seen men, and I don't condone this behavior or encourage it whatsoever. But I've seen men. I remember back in the days where they could have 5 different women they're dealing with. All right. And they will literally forbid every one of those women from entertaining anyone else, even though he's clearly not being serious about any of those women. It's like, you can't talk to anybody else. You can only talk to me, even though I'll be talking to whoever I want to talk to. And it happens a lot. And so be careful with that. Be mindful of that. Understand the difference between someone who's just territorial or just being jealous versus a man who has genuine feelings for you. All right. So here's nothing to consider with how your absence can play with a man's emotions is sometimes a man does not want to risk losing you, but that doesn't mean he's truly ready for you. All right. So I want to start with an example when a man is young, because I used to see this all the time in like college and around those years, where young man meets a woman. She's amazing. She's wonderful. He truly likes her. He feels like, yo, like this can be future wife, or even already has accepted in his mind, this will be my future wife. However, for whatever reason, he doesn't feel ready yet. And let's not even talk about not feeling ready from like a financial standpoint or not having things established. I'm going to use the example of he doesn't feel ready because he's not sure if he's done playing the field. Okay? And so what would happen a lot of times is these men, because it's like, okay, I cannot pass up this woman. This is too good, but I still want to be doing my thing. They would get with the woman in an official relationship. They'd be out there in these streets doing their thing, cheating. And their mindset was, all right, let me get this out of my system. And hopefully by the time we're ready to get married, I would have lived my life. I'm good, and we can move forward and leave that in the past. Okay? Now, of course, me explaining that to you does not mean I co-sign it or encourage it in any kind of way. I'm telling you what would happen a lot. Because again, the mentality was he felt like he could not risk losing this woman. Now, unfortunately, in a lot of situations, that a lot of times won't work, because at some point, you know, a lot of guys get caught. Bottom line, they get caught. She finds out something, even if it hurt her, even if they break up. A lot of times, and let me say this, a lot of people will say, oh, if I ever get cheated on, I'm gone, that's it, end of story. And the reality is, and this is not in any way giving judgment, or, you know, I don't want anyone to feel bad about it if that's been them. But the reality is that many people who then get cheated on don't end up leaving. Okay? They end up staying, or they leave and they come back. And believe it or not, we're not going to get too deep into it, because I know a lot of women think, oh, well, you see how a man will cheat and he expects a woman to be okay with it, accept it. Like, or yeah, if a man cheats, he has an issue with a woman having an issue with it. But when a woman cheats, men just are done. Truth be told, that's actually not that's not the case. A lot of men, I know a lot of situations where the man has been cheated on and he stays. All right? Because there's so many more layers to it. And once people are actually in that situation, it's easier said than done to just completely 100% call it quits. It depends on a lot of different factors. But again, that's going to be a different video. Let's get back to the point at hand. Because he was afraid to lose her, He would do that. Eventually he gets caught. She stays with him. But now the seeds of insecurity, the seeds of betrayal, the seeds of deceit have been planted in the relationship and then carries over many times into potentially maybe a marriage. And it's hard for most people to fully recover from that. All right. Fast forward into older age, past the college years, past the late high school years. A lot of men, I think I don't see it happening as much, because I do think a lot of men, as they get older, when they realize they're not ready, not all, of course, is still playing games or still doing things in not the healthiest way, but more are willing to be like, you know what, I'm not ready. Let me not push forward with this woman, or let me not reel her in when I know I can't go there with her overall. But it still happens. It still happens. So bringing that or connecting that to the overall arching topic at hand, a lot of times a woman will, because she's dealing with a man who maybe is unwilling to commit, isn't ready, whatever the case may be, she walks away, she ignores him, she does these things to, again, even though she's saying, no, I'm done, there's a part of her many times that's hoping that he will fight to get her back. And he does, but it's because of the fear of losing you, even though he's not ready for you. And as a woman, you got to understand that if this man is not ready and you try to force the issue, you are more than likely going to set yourself up for disaster. All right. The last thing you want to do is to pressure a man to do something he is not truly, I don't want to, of course we can say ready for, but it isn't truly embracing. Like, he has to be at a place of confidence that this is what I want, this is what I'm ready to do. Example, I remember speaking to a man once, and at this point in his life, he was divorced, or he was getting a divorce. And he was married for, let's say, 7 years, not happy while he was married. And I asked him, I was like, because I notice whenever I speak to people who are divorced, I like to go back to the beginning of their relationship to see, was this something that was good and then went bad, or was there always something off about the situation? And in his own words, he said, the only reason I married her was because I was too afraid to say no. So she insisted on marriage. He did not know how to put his foot down and say, either I don't want this or I'm not ready for this. They move forward, and it just creates a lot of problems because if let's say, for example, it's a money thing and he wants to be at a better place financially, right? Well, you got to understand that if a man doesn't feel good about his position in life, that can affect him in a way that causes him to be more insecure, to be focused on other things and not have as much time for the relationship, because he's so like, I got to get myself right, that he doesn't know how to tear himself away from the work, the grind of trying to get there. He's not at a place where he can afford to create the kind of balance necessary to handle both career and relationship. Amongst other things, right? Because that insecurity, that lack of confidence, or even just the frustration and resentment deep inside of him, feeling like, I told this woman why did she force me to be here? Even though, yeah, I know what y'all saying. Like, well, nobody put a gun to the man's head. Granted, but this is how someone may be processing it and internalizing it, okay? Which then creates frustration, resentment, and it can blow up in people's faces. Speaking of a different situation where there was a couple, and the guy is younger than the woman. So this is a situation where he is trying to get himself ready or established. He's still in college, and he doesn't really have time for a relationship. But to that woman, it's like, why can't we be together? What's the problem? I don't understand why you can't make this work. And so eventually he gives in, they do it. But then she feels some kind of way because he's constantly studying, he's doing homework, he's not taking her out. She's getting frustrated. They get into an argument, the whole thing blows up. And let me tell you, these aren't two people who don't have genuine love for each other. These aren't two people who can't ultimately work well together. This is just two people who try to force the issue at a time that the table was not properly set. Okay? So you've got to recognize when you leaving him alone or walking away from him and him then trying to be with you is just him being afraid to lose you, but he hasn't conquered whatever issues that aren't allowing him to feel like he's ready for you. All right, so let's keep this going. Another thing to consider with the idea that your absence or how your absence plays with his emotions is that you're actually better off giving your consistent presence than you are with playing around with being absent. Okay? What do I mean? So, first, let's start with the reality that for some of you, you're not consistent in dealing with this man. And when I say you're not consistent, I'm talking to you and that man, okay? Meaning a lot of women are dating a man and let's say you're seeing each other in here and there. It's sporadic, okay? And because of that, it makes it harder for you to evaluate the man and the overall situation. Now, some of you may rely heavily on talking on the phone and text and things of that nature. And that's cool, right? But I'm a firm believer that you've got to make sure you're getting enough in-person quality time because that's what's going to really show you what's going on. All right. So, for example, it's coming to mind or hitting my spirit where I remember a situation where a woman was dating a man and she would on the phone they would have great conversations and everything would be great and talk for hours and all these different things, right? But when they were in each other's presence it was really just sexual and he wasn't really taking her anywhere. They weren't doing as much talking at that time. And so to me it's like, okay, you're falling for what you get emotionally on the phone, but there's some kind of disconnect in person. Now, granted, I understand that sometimes people are just having a strong attraction to each other. They enjoy the intimacy. I get it. But if there is no proper balance of non-sexual intimacy in person, at least at some level, that's concerning because the issue is this. If you move forward into an official relationship or marriage with this man, well, the majority of your interaction will be in person. Like you're not going to be in the house in one room on the phone and he's in another room on the phone. Like you can't rely on the phone so much to give you an idea of what's going on here. You guys have to be able to click and come together and move in harmony even in person, right? That's the priority. So if you play with this idea of let me be absent, let me be hard to get, all these different things, you're giving yourself less opportunity to really understand who this man is and what his intentions are. Also, look at it this way. When you are constantly present, right? So, like I said, you get a better opportunity to evaluate the interaction, who this man is, things of that nature. And the reality is that a lot of people are together because they have enough distractions in their life. What do I mean by that? There are literally people who are married right now where if it wasn't for the fact that they have kids, if it wasn't for them both having so much going on, they would not be able to survive together because at their core, they don't really like each other. All right. And they were able to get this far because they focused on the surface so much and they didn't really get deep with each other and understanding if they truly have a connection there. All right. There are tons of people married right now who have told me they do not have a connection with their partner. And they did not fully grasp that until later on in the marriage. For some, they didn't realize the importance of it. For others, they didn't even understand the whole existence of connection. They just thought you find someone you like that and has good qualities, the resume is great, and you get with them. And it's like, no, because if there's not genuine love at the foundation of this relationship, genuine connection, it's not going to work. And I want to phrase it like this: love, and I'm talking genuine love, connection, is essentially fuel. It is fuel to the relationship. It is fuel to our ability and willingness to pour into each other. So when you do not have genuine love and connection, you do not have the fuel, well, guess what? The car is going to run out of gas. You see what I'm saying? And at some point, that relationship, that marriage is going to reach a dead end, guaranteed, because you don't have the fuel to push it to the final destination, so to speak. So understand that you want to be consistent in being able to spend time with this guy. Now, I know for some of you, you're saying, well, listen, Stephan, I would love to do that. The problem is him, okay? And I get it. And I understand that some situations it's easier said than done because people do have responsibilities depending on certain people's situation. People have kids involved, they have careers, they have all these different things. And so it's hard to create consistent time. But if you can't get consistent time as far as the frequency of days that you guys are seeing each other and hanging out in each other's presence, then you want to make sure that when you do have those days, you're getting a good amount of time in that day. So it's like, all right, if for example, due to the circumstances, you two can only see each other once a week, right? And for some people, y'all might be like, that's enough, man. And for others, like, that's not going to work. But either way, let's just go if it's once a week. All right, we got to make that one time count. And we got to make sure, because again, going back to the earlier example, make sure that that one time isn't just being overshadowed by intimacy or isn't being overshadowed by just doing fun things. Because remember I said a lot of people were able to make it further with each other because they had distractions. So an example, and I'm going to give you this example with what I told to a guy one time. I had a man come to me. He was dating a woman. He really liked her. And he was like, I'm not sure where this is going. I'm not sure how she feels. And I said, well, okay, well, did you guys go on a date? He's like, yeah. I said, where'd you guys go? The first date was a concert. And the second date was some other kind of like festival or something like that. And I said, listen, do not take a woman to a concert or something on a first date. The reason being, and I would say this if it was a woman who had this idea. If you're going to a concert, let's just say, for example, the woman is a Beyonce fan and it's a Beyonce concert. Well, guess what? She's gonna have fun unless you are just a party pooper and just horrible to be around. She's gonna be happy because she got to go to a Beyonce concert. So therefore, y'all can't really, and she's gonna be distracted by this concert and the enjoyment, and she's so excited and all these different things. You're not really getting to see that she enjoys spending time with you. This is what I'm saying to a man, but this is what I would say to a woman, the same thing. If for example, a woman was like, suggested to a guy, let's go to a sports game for a first date. No, don't do that. You don't want to pick something that's so distracting and enjoyable in that way because it's not allowing you to see if you two can truly enjoy each other. This is why I believe and I encourage first dates, second dates, keep it simple. Keep it simple. It's like how a lot of people back in the day used to go to the movies, right, for a first date. I'm like, no, don't go to the movies. Because the problem is, unless there's going to be a time before or after where you guys can maybe sit down somewhere and talk or whatever, The movies don't allow you to interact. Therefore, you're not getting to accomplish the main objective of a date, which is getting to know someone and seeing if there's something special there. All right. So, all that to say, you got to be mindful of not allowing other things to distract you. And the reality is that you want to, I'd rather you not do the whole absence thing and focus on how can I spend as much time with this individual to properly evaluate if they're truly best for me. All right, so I've mentioned this earlier. I want to say it one more time because I need to make sure you're really grasping this. And the other issue to be mindful of when it comes to how your absence plays with a man's emotions is that, again, it can trigger something in him that makes him feel like he loves you, but it's just an unhealthy attachment. So, again, I explained it earlier, but the reason why I'm repeating it right now is because if you want to properly evaluate a, a man and you want to see, you're trying to see if he cares about you or if he's going to be willing to move forward because you let him go. One, you got to understand that if he is not healed, if he has not done the inner work, then there's a very strong possibility that he already has developed an unhealthy attachment to you. And that unhealthy attachment can cause him to react in various ways. So for some people, that walking away, unfortunately, and not saying it should stop a woman from walking away, but some women, the reaction they got out of that man was violence. The reaction they got out of that man was something extremely toxic. Okay. Now, again, that's not the responsibility of the woman. That's the woman carries no blame for that. I just want y'all to understand that if you're dealing with an unhealthy man, well, you have to be mindful that he may react in unhealthy ways. And sometimes, yes, it may not be that far over the edge, but it may be something more subtle, but still him begging to get you back because he's reacting in the moment. And if you let that fool you, and make sure you have to make sure you have corrected the underlying issues. So I just have to jump in and say this. If you've reached a point where you're going to walk away from a man and there is any piece of you that is open to or hoping for him to try to win you back or come back or make it right, whatever, you got to ask yourself, okay, yes, you may have walked away because he wasn't prepared to commit, but do you understand the underlying issues? Because if not, him coming back means nothing if those underlying issues are not recognized and addressed and corrected. Okay? You also have to ask yourself this. In the midst of, I hate to say it, playing this game, and sometimes it's not playing a game, okay? In the midst of allowing this approach to be done in a situation, you got to ask yourself, is this really the man for me? Okay? Because you may be hoping for a reaction. You may be hoping he fights to get you back. But if he's not the man for you, it doesn't matter. And too many women are evaluating or determining whether they should be with a man based on his level of effort to try to be with them. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that his effort doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But you have to understand this. So let me put it to you like this. I've seen situations where a woman has two men in her life. And let me just say, there's another quote I love where when God is bringing you the original, the devil will bring you in an imposter. So I've seen countless times where a woman is dealing with two different guys. They both want to be with her. And in many cases, one of them is someone that she has deep feelings for connection with. And then there's this other guy who maybe was already in her life before, maybe it's her current on and off thing, whatever the case may be. And she's looking to see, okay, well, who's going to fight harder to be with me. And because the idea is the one who fights harder must be the one who truly loves me. But the unfortunate reality is that sometimes the toxic, unhealthy man, sometimes the man who wants to use you, will be the man who puts in the most effort to get you back or to get you at all. And the man who's madly in love with you, genuine about being with you, has a connection with you, is struggling to put forth that same effort. Now, that might sound confusing, right? I'm just rolling out all kinds of quotes in this video, but another quote I use is, it can be easier to chase lust than it is to chase love. And what that means is, when a man or a person truly loves someone, any resistance can be hurtful. There's also the fear of being so vulnerable. There's the fear of being so rejected. There's a lot more going on that can be a struggle for people to overcome, especially if there are some things they haven't healed from. But the man who's lusting after you, he don't care about the rejection. He'll take your rejection 20 times over and still keep coming because he just wants what he wants. He's not emotionally invested enough to be hurt or to struggle with that. He's not worried about being vulnerable because to him, he's just focused on, what do I have to do to regain access to this woman? So you cannot just go by what is happening on the surface. I know some of y'all are like, this is way too complicated, but listen, don't let that be your thought process. This is why it's always going to come back to, you gotta talk to God. Before you try to walk away, before you do the whole no contact rule, before you play hard to get, before you do anything, talk to God. Talk to God about how you should approach the situation. Talk to God about, is this the man for you? All right. Talk to God about, what do you need to be doing on your end? Because sometimes we're talking to God about this person and God will change their heart and all this stuff. And it's like, God's busy trying to work on you and your heart, and you over there focused on this man. You might have some healing to do. You may have some steps to take before you can receive what you ultimately desire and what's ultimately best for you. So talk to God, pray, and also trust your intuition, because some of you deep inside may know this is not where you belong, but you've kind of fallen into that trap of having your own unhealthy attachment and struggling to walk away and accept that this man is not for you. So at the end of the day, do not play these games, okay? Always take a healthy approach. Communicate, properly evaluate the situation, and include God in the process so that you can make the right decisions and walk on the path that is truly best for you. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on 7 secret ways to make him emotionally attracted to you. Okay, yeah, that can happen, right? But that doesn't mean it's the best way to go about it. It doesn't mean it's the most efficient approach. You know what I'm saying? Some people